What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to the channel, fam. It's your boy Kirk Nugent, and we are checking out how it all works behind the scenes of TV and movie production. We have a panel that is phenomenal, and as I was looking at their bios and some of the projects they've worked on last night, trying to get some, do some homework so that I can speak intelligently to the panel and to the content today, I was just thoroughly impressed. Just thoroughly impressed. And so we're in for a treat today, an absolute treat. And hope that you are buckled in, hope that you're ready. If you have not already, take a moment right now, subscribe to the channel, take a moment right now and share the live stream so that others can be informed, so others can take part, so that others can benefit from the information that's going to be shared today. So without any further ado, let's get it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know some of you are still on mute, but just want to say a word of welcome to all of you. You have no idea how thankful I am personally to have all of you on the channel today, lending your years of experience and expertise to our audience and just giving us a glimpse behind the veil, if you will, helping us understand a little bit better how it works, how it all works in TV and movie production. I'm just taking a moment right now to allow people to shout out their people. If you are with us, if you're watching today and somebody on screen is your people, go ahead and shout them out in the comments section right now. Also, tell us where you're watching from. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what parts of the country or parts of the world you're watching from. We want to engage with you in the comment section. And again, if you have not already, please take a moment to subscribe. If you're watching on howitallworks.com, it's right underneath the large video. If you're watching on any of the other platforms, just head over to youtube.com/KirkRNugent and click that button. We're going to take a second to go around the digital room here and allow people to introduce themselves. All of our guests. We're going to start right next to me, which is my boy Ralph, Jean-Pierre. It's been a while, man. So yes, good to have you. So good to have you on the show and to lend your experience. So go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself, and we will maybe even throw something up on the screen for them to see.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ralph Jean-Pierre, and I work as an editor, assistant editor in most major TV and film productions. I live in LA, but right now I'm working out of Philadelphia on season 2 of a new show. And I graduated from now Washington Adventist University for my undergrad, and then I did my master's at AFI Conservatory and finished that in 2012. And roughly by 2014, I was making my foot in, working into the industry and so forth. So I'm glad to be here and hopefully I could answer any questions.
Good. Let me just throw this up on the screen for those who want to see some of the details for Mr. Jean-Pierre. These are some of his details and some of his recent projects. Professor Cheddar, please introduce yourself to the people.
All right, so hi guys, nice to see you all. I'm Dwayne Cheddar, and I'm professor in the broadcast journalism and film program here at Oakwood University. And I also have the privilege of being the producer and director for the Bread of Life TV ministry, and also the media director for Oakwood University Church.
Yes.
This is a very special event because my workers are pretty much most of my students. So it gives an opportunity for my students to gain practical experience while doing the theory aspect in class at the same time.
Very true. Excellent. Ched, thank you so much for being here. We're going to actually throw on the screen something for Professor Cheddar real quick. And then we're going to move quickly to right below him, Brother Russell. Talk to us.
Oh, we're going clockwise. I like
yes, clockwise. Yes.
My name is Andy Russell. I am, in my current capacity, like at this moment, a video editor for NBC News. I do quite a few things, but that's my primary right now. I really enjoy what I do, and it's a lot of work, and it can be stressful sometimes, but it completes me. It's something that I feel is extremely rewarding, and I appreciate it. I do have to shout out Ralph because Ralph is a big reason why I have stayed in this video film creative field, because I saw him early when he was still in college with my sister, working hard and kind of doing big things that were inspirational to me. And so that's a huge reason that I'm here.
Nice. Yes, thank you so much for being here. And we go to Fernita. I was going to say Aunt Fernita, but maybe some may not get that. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm Fernita Buddy Fullwood B. I've shortened Buddy was my maiden name. So Fernita B. Fullwood. But I want to give a shout out to you, Kirk, for the invite and for this distinguished, esteemed panel. I remember Ralph was starting, Andy was starting, and I met Professor Cheddar a little later on, working with him at Oakwood and when I was at Hope Channel. I don't know Patrick yet. I hope to connect with you a little bit later, but I'm currently wrapping up some projects with Adventist Risk Management as their strategic communications and events producer and coordinator. I have also worked previously, that's kind of like my midlife career, from production into events, and finding it was a bit of the same. I'm producing something live, an event. There are lots of elements involved, so it was an easy transition for me, but have a bit of background in radio and television, and now transitioning to digital events. That's me.
We're getting some feedback from some of the folks commenting, Fernita, that your volume is a little low. I can hear you, and it's very clear, but it's just a little low. I don't know if there's anything we can do to adjust that a little bit, but thank you so much for the shout out, and thank you so much for accepting and for lending your experience and expertise to this discussion. I am also kind of transitioning between full-time employment to self-employment, so I'm with you. I understand, that space of kind of making that step and trying to figure out what that next phase or chapter is going to look like. Patrick, talk to us a little bit about you and some of your projects, and again, my thanks for coming on the show and lending your experience to our audience.
No, I want to, thank you for having me on here. This is my first time doing something like this, so I'm very excited by it. Tell you guys more about myself. My name is Patrick Altima. I am a freelance television producer. I work mostly in docuseries. So, I've been producing docuseries for about 4 or 5 years now. Been in LA for 7 years. After moving here from the East Coast, finishing my master's degree, aside from my day job, I also do a lot of writing and directing and editing, kind of just storytelling in general is where my passion is. And
Yes, yes.
if it's a good story, I would love to tell it, regardless of what the format is.
Right.
And yeah, just, always trying to grow as a storyteller and work on awesome stuff.
Man, well, again, my thanks to all of you for taking the time out in the middle of the day and having this quick discussion. We're gonna dive right into our first question, and that is, to describe for the viewers all that goes into a production, whether it's live, whether it's a movie, whether it's a TV show, whether it's a documentary, whatever production it is. Give us a sense of some of the things that go into a production. We may have viewers who are various stages or familiarity with the whole production process. So just treat us, like we're dumb, and give us a step by step. What does it start with? Does it start with a great story? Does it start with a script, concept? Do you need to have the budget? I mean, what all does it work out to be? Some people have even said that, when you're working on a feature film, that's a company for the duration of the time that film is being shot. I know that some of you may know this, but I'm working on a master's degree in cinema, religion, and worldview out of Walla Walla University, and we had the opportunity to do a master class with John Gunn, who did the recent movie with Jeremy Camp. It's gone from my mind right now, but he also did the movie. Anyway, both of them are gone right now. But John Gunn was one of the people they brought in for the class, and I know some of the things he was sharing with us in terms of how production is done was fascinating. So wanted to get your perspectives on that. In the various capacities that you have worked, share with us what a production looks like.
Well, let me start in. Before you do your production, you got to have an idea, your concept of what is it that you really want to do. And once you have your concept and what you want to do, then the next thing you probably need to think of is your target audience. Right. Who are you actually doing this for? And you can take it from there. So then you can start doing your pre-production. Let someone else come in right now, and then we'll figure it around.
Yeah. We'll weave it around.
Pre-production is a large piece that we need to talk about, I think, later on. But idea, concept first, and then we move on.
Yeah. Anybody else?
So my background is in local news. And so at that moment, it is the story or what's happening that's driving what we're doing. There's not a lot of time for pre-production. It's usually hurry up, grab a camera, and get to the site and capture whatever's going on before it ends. So usually for us in local news, it's making sure you're ready, you're on your game, and then also transitioning through the story. Again, knowing your target audience, knowing who are your viewers, but also making sure you do your best to get both sides of the story so you are fair in your storytelling. I know we can take a whole nother show talking about, is the media really fair?
Is it fair? Wow.
Is it leaning this way? Is it leaning that way?
But
yeah, that's another time. But the goal is to get there for the story and turn it around as quickly as you can.
To piggyback off that, in documentary, which is similar to news in that in a lot of cases, the story has already happened. So you're trying to figure out a way to retell this important story. A lot of times for that, the development process is legal. So it's, getting your ducks in a row for, can we legally tell this story? Do we have the people who are important, do we have them signing paperwork that says that they will talk to us? They will get on camera with us and tell us the story. And then when you sort of have those things in a row, you can then approach a network or a production company and say, hey,
can we get some?
This amazing story happened. I've got these people who signed a contract who said they will get on camera with me and tell the story. Will you pay for it?
Will you pay for it? I like
Will
it.
you pay for it? And then if they say yes, hopefully you get a check, and then you continue to develop the story, get into pre-production, and then continue from there.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, Kirk, how you mentioned how you found out that, you know, a lot of movie productions are a company. Same thing in television. You know, every show is pretty much, so they'll sell the show to a studio. Studio gives money to a production company who runs their own entity. And from there, they run the show as their own independent company, but just emboldened to the studios, their notes and their ideas. So I know we answered a lot of pre-production questions, but that's a lot what it involves is now getting that idea, getting the money, the funds, and then, and as Cheddar said, you know, pre-production is key, where I always advise anybody else, don't just have your writer and your director in pre-production, have your DP, production designer, your editors, everything. Everyone has their niche and their expertise in that field, and it'll make your whole project easier if everyone's on the same page as early as possible. So when you're planning these things, think about the budget for the whole thing. A lot of times in indie projects, people will just worry about shooting, but when you get to post or certain things, money is gone. They forget about it. So that's definitely something you want to make sure you're involved with in the beginning with all departments.
Wow. You mentioned a couple of titles there. I don't know if Andy you wanted to jump in, but don't give us acronyms, please. You know, give us the full.
I mean, while we're piggybacking, let me just grab a saddle and piggyback on.
Come on.
What I just said, because as Fernita mentioned in news, there's an insane list of decisions that have to be made quickly, instantly, every day to be able to make the broadcast by whatever time you're trying to broadcast. As Pat mentioned, these things still have to go through legal and standards. They have to go through legal and standards. They have to adhere to journalistic integrity. They have to, you know, make sure that we're meeting the aesthetic that the viewers are anticipating as well. So there are a bunch of things that have to be considered during pre-production. And then, as Ralph mentioned, knowing your place and your strength on the team is important so that the machine can roll very easily and without hesitation sometimes, because it's necessary for, it's cliche, it's necessary for the teamwork.
For the team, the dream work. The dream work, yeah. No, we like it. We like it. That's fine.
I just want to say something that Fernita says. I know she's talking about news, and it's at the very beginning. You know, it's happening now, but also a lot of folks need to realize that news has to be produced too. So, if you're talking about whatever story, you've got to find your relevant footage or whatever information to tell your story. So it's not just going to tell a story, but to do that, because I did news for a couple of years. I produced and directed news, primetime news for a number of years. And Fredito or whoever worked in news will tell you that at times we'll have to say, okay, take that news item out. We got to put this one in at last minute and so on. So it has to be produced, but we got to be careful in terms of just going and just doing it. You know, I hear people say, let's do it now. It's not just do it now. No.
So there's a plan even when it comes on to something as fluid and as, you know, on the spot as news. Still have to have some kind of a structure and a plan to the whole thing. And I guess putting together those pieces as kind of scaffolding helps to be able to churn out the product quicker. So knowing what your structure is, what plan or what story you're looking for to plug into a specific piece, that could be helpful as well. What are some of the titles, people's titles that you work with in a production, and what do those people do? I had an opportunity to be a continuity director on a project I was doing with some classmates, and I'd never heard of it before, and I mean now I'm like, man, that's a critical job. In fact, most of the the jokes or the highlight reel. It's like when you find a bottle of water on the set for Game of Thrones. That doesn't work, right? That's your continuity directors falling down on the job. So go tell us some of the titles of people who would be behind the scenes in production, and what are some of the things that those people do?
I could start with your big six.
Okay.
There's obviously when you watch credits, there are 1,000 names that pop up. So many different roles. But I could start with some of the major names. So you'll have your producer. So now in producers, they might have various roles, but generally they are on the business end side of dealing with scheduling, budget, hiring, and so forth. And you also will have writer producers who, they wrote the project, so they're involved in that sense.
Right.
Then you'll have your director, who it's his vision of the story that the writer wrote. So the director will work with the whole team, with the actors, with the other departments to translate the vision in his head, to the screen and
Right.
so forth. Then you have your screenwriter, the one that, writes the story. It'll go through many changes throughout the time. You'll find in anything before I do that. So you have a screenwriter, then you'll have your cinematographer or director of photography, which is the person in charge of shooting the look of the project. They don't necessarily always carry the camera or whatnot, but it's their visual vision that you're kind of seeing as they're working with the director to get that process done. Then you'll have your production designer. That person is the one that, creates the set, the scene. They work with, the construction team, the paint team, the little knickknacks on the wall.
Yeah.
Let's say you're walking into a building, it's 1940s, let's say you walk into a kitchen, it can't be brand new. You gotta have little dents, this, that. They'll mark up everything.
Right.
With your production design team. Then in post, you have your editors who, the day after everything is shot, we are literally going through all the footage, on our own and choosing the takes, choosing our performances, creating the pace and the story that you're seeing.
Nice.
And one of the great things about editing is it ends up being the final rewrite. So the writer starts it, director will shoot it, but by the time you get onto the editing side, things might not be the way that you envisioned it on the writing side.
Right.
So you end up reshaping the story again when it comes to editing.
Man,
major departments.
there's a lot there. And I'm gonna Cheddar, whoever wants to jump in. But I'm just gonna encourage those who are watching. If you have questions, just go ahead and drop them in. We're gonna start bringing in some of your questions here in a few minutes. But go ahead. Did somebody else wanted to mention something?
I do want to say that's a fantastic term. The edit ends up being the final rewrite, because that's sincerely true across the board. I think across genres. I think for news, and for Nita and Dwayne, you can kind of jump in here to help me out here. But like you said, Ralph, there is a big 6 or 7 or 8, but the operation requires so many different people at so many different points throughout the day and the week. I guess you have your director of news gathering, and then all of your assignment desk team, who's constantly monitoring what's happening on the wires, like the Associated Press or Reuters, or making sure that they're monitoring what's happening on now Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, or seeing who's talking about what and what the big news stories are of the day. Some of the shows I work on are flagship shows, which means that the packaging is tighter. The packaging is 1 minute and 40 seconds or 2 minutes and 10 seconds for NBC Nightly News or Today's Show or whatever else. So the decisions need to be made about what stories get included. And for me, you brought it up earlier, is the media fair? Because decisions have to be made about what the narrative of this country is and what are we showing our user. But when we're choosing what we're doing, we're also choosing what we're leaving out. And so I wouldn't say pressure, but the responsibility of journalists and the media is to make sure that whatever's being presented in the broadcast needs to be extremely important and valuable for the audience. They're the people who are news gathering. And then you have the researchers. The researchers are constantly going through what's likely to be presented and making sure that we're presenting it factually in a factually accurate way.
Wow.
Do we have multiple independently verifiable sources before we go to air? Because if we present something on a whim or on a rumor, then the reputation of whatever news company you're working for is at risk, right? And so you have the researchers, you have your producers who are working with multiple different parts of the machine, reaching out to potential guests that can be interviewed over the course of the day, or making sure that the researchers are talking to the correspondents to make sure we can move forward on something without wasting any additional time, or producers are working directly with the editors to make sure that it goes to broadcast. And the poster, the editors, and then the people who are gathering the footage, and just people, the camera people out in the field, and it's a massive operation that it all goes to the control room.
Yeah. Man, that's a lot. That's a mouthful.
Something I probably want to say or get out, because I'm not sure who's watching or what we're working on, but one of the main persons I think we need to look at is the production manager, because in our era right now, we need to look at all the copyright laws and the releases and everything that needs to be done. And for our organization, a lot of us tend to go out and grab things, use them, and none of this is followed. No copyright issue, is solved. Laws, releases, permissions are given to this. So we probably need to look at that. Maybe not in this one, but that
in
person is
one.
Critical to our role.
Yeah. I saw a live stream earlier today with someone from legal team at NGO headquarters, where they were talking about that very thing, copyright issues, different things that need to be looked into, different things that a lot of us, not just in faith-based organizations or education, but a lot of people need to be more mindful of some of the copyright issues that are out there. You can really get beat up. I have a question. Two questions. One is, what does a gaffer do? Anybody can grab that one. I have an idea, but somebody has responded to the person in the comments already. And then the second question is, maybe this might be one for you, Patrick. Has the government ever made grants or funds available for particular media projects for stories that deserve to be shown or heard? It's a very specific question, but anybody can answer, but I wanted to throw it to Patrick because I feel like we need to hear your voice, sir.
The answer to that question is yes.
Okay.
Funny enough, I'm actually more familiar with this happening outside of the United States than within the United States.
Okay.
So I would actually ask you guys: are you guys familiar of in the U.S. them funding stories in this way? I actually can't think of any examples here, but I know that Australia does that. I know that the UK does this.
Yeah, Europe does it. Yeah, UK does it. Yeah.
Wow.
I think PBS does some, but I'm not sure how much.
Yeah. It's a good Geston. That's a very good question. Maybe we'll follow up and get back to you on that if we can find some funding sources.
The closest thing I could think of is just maybe, I guess, in our TV film world, just tax breaks. Where for example, if you want shooting in North Carolina, Louisiana, Georgia, where a lot of productions are moving to, because cities and governments want work and to get their local people working and moving, they'll give tax breaks to production companies. Hey, bring our show here. You all pay less tax as long as you hire locals. And so forth, and get our economy going.
Again, right.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Patrick, do you want to handle the gaffer one?
So the gaffer is part of, they work in the camera crew. They work on electric. So they basically help set up lights and cords and stuff. They work under the director of photography, and they're the one that knows, the DP might say, okay, we're trying to achieve this look, so I need a light over there to do that. Gaffer basically is the one who does wiring and actually physically sets up the light to do what the director of photography wants it to do, which is part of the director's vision for how this scene should look.
Nice. Thank you for.
But also to step back to the earlier question about just who is part of the film crew.
Yes.
Documentaries, we have smaller crews. So this, as compared to the big crew that Ralph is talking about, we have similar departments. Of course, we have the camera department, which is headed by the director of photography. And on our sets, the DP typically is operating a camera as well, which is not typically the case for a bigger scripted production.
Right.
Yeah, so the DP might be operating one camera. He might have a first AC who is an assistant camera who is also operating a camera. We'll have one sound person on set. And then aside from that, you know, there might be hair and makeup, depending on if we're doing sit-down interviews. But aside from that, it's typically producers. And in the documentary world, we have a million different types of producers who all do different things depending on their title and depending on what the project is. Like, it can be, you know, the exact same title could do two completely different things on different projects.
Right.
You know, just to give like short examples, so there's executive producers, which we've all heard of, and you know, a lot of people have the idea in their head that like, oh, an executive producer, they're the one that paid for the thing. And in some cases that's true. It could be that they put money up. It could be that they have an important job at a company that put money up. Mm-hmm. It could be that they might have been the one that got those contracts signed that I mentioned earlier. So if they went around the contract signed and then sold the show and did nothing else, they're an executive producer. It could be that they're the showrunner and they're the executive producer. You know, it could be a million different things. Then we have field producers who are actually in the field, and they could just be helping facilitate day-to-day things like talking to talent, making sure that they're where they need to be, just interfacing with them. They could be doing interviews. And then there's also story producers, which sort of overlap with this. And in the documentary world, we don't have writers, but we have story producers who are sort of focusing on all things story. So what that could mean is they could be doing interviews. They could be helping with interview questions. They could be helping think of different scenes that we might need to shoot to be able to tell the story correctly.
Right.
But their job is really, really, really important in post-production.
Right.
And sort of what Andy and Ralph were saying about how the final rewrite happens in post. For documentary, that there's a lot of rewriting that's happening in post.
Wow.
So, you know, even though it's a set story, there's a million different ways to tell any story. And if you shot, you know, hundreds of hours of footage, you have to be able to get that down to 5 or 6 hours for delivery. So a story producer is really the one that sits there and says, okay, we shot 100 hours of this person doing this task and doing interviews about it. How can I make this a 45-minute episode?
Wow.
In a way that has an arc, right?
Right.
So what that could mean is a story producer actually sits there and watches this hundreds of hours and says, okay, I'm going to take this, and this, take these parts of the interview, truncate it to that, and this is the thing. Or they could say, I'm going to take pieces of this, borrow it from pieces of that, from a whole different shoot on a whole different day.
Right.
Combine it into this thematic thing.
That's great. That's great. We're right at the halfway mark here, and I want to just take a second to do one piece of house cleaning. If you were watching our show last week when we had a number of web designers, webmasters on the show talking about the tips and tricks behind the scenes of web design, you would have known that we gave away to one lucky viewer. Well, at least we shared with all of the viewers what you needed to do to be able to be entered into win 1 year of hosting with DreamHost. So we have those who wanted to get entered into that, did what they needed to do, followed the instructions, and the person that was randomly selected, believe me when I tell you this is random, I know it might not seem like it, but the person that was randomly selected is Mr. Anthony Corns. And so we're so happy to let him know that he has won the 1 year of web hosting with DreamHost. And so Mr. Corns just dropped me an email at info@kirknugentspeaks.com, and we will get you connected with DreamHost so that you can get your 1 year of hosting. Congratulations to you. In previous weeks, we also did a Flickr Pro, 1 year Flickr Pro giveaway. We also did a 1 year of Ecamm Live Pro giveaway. And we don't have a giveaway this week, but we feel like the content that you are going to be getting from the panel is its own benefit. And again, just want to shameless plug, if you have not subscribed to the channel already, take a moment right now and do just that. We're going to get into the behind the scenes stories. So the stories of different things that have happened on set, on projects that you want to share with us. And I've asked everyone to come prepared with a story, but I don't want to pick the order. If there's somebody that's really like, yeah, I've got a story, I want to share something that happened on set, behind the scenes, feel free to do so. And I'll if I have something, if you gave me something, I'll pull that up at this time. So, want to open the floor for us to share some of the behind the scenes stories.
Well, I would like to volunteer for Nita to go first.
All right. And I know you sent a picture in. I've got two pictures here. You want me to put that up now, or do you want to talk first?
No. He volunteered me to go first.
He's volunteering for Nita. I didn't hear it properly. Okay. All right. So for Nita, yes. Are you okay with that? I mean, how does that work? You voluntold.
No. This is a live production, and in live production, you have to be ready to go at any moment.
There you go. So, this is why I love this. This is perfect. Go ahead.
So roll with it. I actually don't have a photo or a video to show, but I want to tell you of a story. That I worked on early in my career in local news. I was working overnights doing mornings, and I enjoyed my job, but I wanted something more. And so I talked to my news director, who oversees the newsroom, and the producers, the camera operators or photographers, and said that I'd like to do something different, and I'd like to do a story about a little girl that I heard about who needed a heart transplant. Her name was Jasmine, and the angle of the story was that it was bringing awareness to the need of transplants for children, and especially this young lady who was Hispanic, Latina. And so my news director said, great, go for it. So I introduced Jasmine to our audience, our local news audience. They fell in love with her. We told her story, her struggle while she couldn't do everything that a 7-year-old little girl would love to do. Introduced her. Then we also found out that they had gotten a call for a heart transplant, or a heart that could be suitable for her.
Wow.
So we rode down with her family 2 hours from Huntsville down to Birmingham.
Wow.
To get the news, to film the reactions, and to be there on site.
Wow.
Come to find out, the heart was not a match. It did not work.
Oh my God.
So we shared that part of the story as well, and it was compelling for me because I was beginning this journey with this family. And even before we went down there and realized that the heart was not going to be a match, she gave me a little necklace, which I still have. I wasn't able to lay hands on it right now, but I still have. It was a little angel. And she said, Pernita, you are my angel. And
wow.
I appreciate all that you have done for our family. And sometime later, Jasmine passed. And so that was it was critical to tell the story, be emotional about it, and share how we were feeling. Our viewers had fallen in love with her. Our team had fallen in love with her.
Wow.
Because she was just this optimistic 7-year-old little girl who didn't get a chance. But
right.
Yet, after her passing, more awareness was brought to transplants for children, and especially those for the Hispanic community. So, and it also gave me a taste of doing something different, realizing that I wanted to do a bit of longer form stories, not just doing 90-second, 60-second, 30-second news stories. I wanted to do something more. So I'm forever grateful to Jasmine and her family and my news director for giving me a chance to do it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
That's
I
awesome.
Andy next.
Look, we started a trend now. So Andy, you gotta have whoever you're volunteering. No, you've already volunteered somebody. So your volunteer is
I will volunteer someone else. My story isn't a specific instance. It's I think a series of situations over the past few weeks, because COVID has even changed how news has been done as well. The first part of it is over the past few weeks, we have. So I'm based in DC, and the majority of the stories that I do are DC based. They're from the White House or Pentagon or State Department. We also do a lot of aviation stuff and consumer affairs content. But because it's DC based, a lot of what I do revolves around Donald Trump. And the dude is a wild card, and we all know that, right? So if I'm on Meet the Press on a Sunday morning, we go live at 10 a.m. And around 8:30, the president wakes up, he begins tweeting. And that essentially invalidates all of the work that's been done in the previous 2 days of the flagship show, because what he just said becomes news. It's Twitter, it's his personal account, but it's still
news.
It's still newsworthy, right?
Right.
In the past few weeks, there have been stories where the protesters peacefully protesting in Lafayette Park directly across from the White House. We have our story going to protest. Then the National Guard comes out in riot gear and starts to spray mace into the crowd, disperses the crowd. We think that's the story. Then the story evolves again with the president walking across the street to St. John's Church and holding up a Bible for a photo op. Right? This all happens in the evening, up to and including during the news broadcast. So we're constantly, as Ralph says, rewriting. We're constantly trying to repackage it for the next time zone, because what we just did now at 6:30 is different when people in Texas start watching it at 7.
Right.
Or if the president says something along the lines of, I'm the best president for Black people, Abraham Lincoln did good, but, it's always questionable, the end result of him freeing the slaves, right? That's newsworthy. Or when
it is newsworthy, no doubt.
Colin Powell, we have a story. Then Colin Powell, the former general who's advised 4 presidents, directly from the White House, endorses Joe Biden. Colin Powell, career Republican, endorses Joe Biden. That becomes news. And so, as Fanita mentioned, staying nimble, being ready in a live production, it needs to be able to happen. And then with COVID, it's changed because we changed what we communicate. Usually, you have your in news edit bays, your editor sitting here and producer sitting directly behind, and the communication happens in an as fluid as manner as possible. Kirk, I think I sent you a couple of pictures to kind of show what our current setup looks like. So on the right is my laptop on FaceTime with my producer, who's looking at my reference monitor. And in the back, you see my desk set up there as well. And my producer is now on the phone with satellite operations in New York, because we're trying to figure out how to, we're rendering some effects. There's not enough time to complete the render and to transfer this to New York. So we're trying to figure out how we can route my edit computer to the control room in New York so that I can hit play and play it out to broadcast, right? On the left side, you see my associate producer on the phone with the senior producer. We're doing a group FaceTime. Wow. And here, we're just trying to figure out how we can make the best of the story that's due. At this point, the picture on the left is in a few hours. And the call might get interrupted if someone from graphics calls and has a question, or the correspondent calls and has input for how the story needs to change. Wow. And right now, it's a little bit more impersonal, just because you don't have immediate response time.
They're not right there with you.
Right. You have to make sure that your AirPods are being connected, or that you have to establish a new FaceTime call, and all of those seconds add up to minutes over the course of the day that could potentially derail your entire production. Right.
Wow.
For us, we're constantly having to adapt to new ways, making sure that we can use the resources at our disposal to still get to broadcast and tell the stories that need to be told.
One of the things you had said earlier, since you already have the floor, the mic, whatever you want to call it, but you had mentioned earlier something about having students coming through doing, I guess, a section of their classes with you or other news stations in the area. Can you share a little bit about how that, some of that part as well?
Yeah, I remember the conversation. Pat, you asked a question. I forgot what
it was something like, are they able to come now since COVID is happening? And you were like,
right. So during the summers, I work as an adjunct technical advisor with Syracuse University. Their capstone program is based in DC, because DC is just, it's a great spot for being able to generate news and, practice and build your chops for news creation. And so these students are creating news stories that are all DC based, and they come to DC for 6 weeks, and then they send them out to different affiliates around the country. They work in small markets like Dayton, Ohio, or Buffalo, New York, or San Antonio, Texas, wherever it is. And one of the things we're having to do right now is to figure out how to make the program remote, how to make sure that these students from wherever they currently are around the country are still able to produce DC-based news packages. So now they're having to use things like Slack to be able to communicate with each other and their advisors and their news directors and people on Capitol Hill and in DC, and find a way to get the footage. So you're just scraping footage from YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or wherever else, or trying to use resources at your disposal in your tool belt to be able to reach out to someone who you know might be able to shoot something for you and get it to you in time and at a high enough quality. And the point that I made is that while it's stressful for the students who could not anticipate this at all, and for the people running the program, it's to their benefit because they're now going to be entering a working field that looks like this, where a lot of stuff will have to be done remotely.
Yes.
And it's a little bit more stressful, but now you're having to constantly pivot to find, as I just mentioned, the best tools at your disposal to be able to produce high quality content.
One last question for you before you voluntold somebody else to take the next spot. Somebody asked, what software do you guys use for editing?
So I'll answer that, and then I'll let you all chime in. I use Premiere personally.
Okay.
I'm using Avid here at work right now, Avid Media Composer. There's a news cutter version of Avid Media Composer as well. Okay. And then I also have recently fallen in love with DaVinci Resolve.
DaVinci Resolve. I love the price.
$3.99.
$3.99. All right. Who are you gonna volunteer?
I see Pat trying to hide, so
yes.
He was looking like he didn't want me to say his name, but I'm
great minds, man. I was like, well, we gotta. Yeah, Patrick. So start with what you edit with, if you edit, and then also just tell us a story, something behind the scenes. You had some fairly unique projects. I know the one that really caught my eye was Free Meek. I would love to kind of pick your brain, especially given the times that we're in and some of the major headlines that we're seeing. I would love to pick your brain a little bit on some of the behind the scenes for that. But yeah, start with what you edit and then let's hear.
So similar to Andy, for years I used Premiere personally, but Ralph actually kind of forced me out of that because him and I worked on a project together, and Ralph is a big Avid guy. So I think now I've kind of turned the corner where I'm only using Avid exclusively. I mean, we use it for work because that's like the industry standard. I think like 98% of things cut on Avid, and then like you'll see Premiere and Final Cut here and there. But yeah, I think I'm an Avid guy pretty much all the way now.
Okay.
But telling a story, so I struggled with this because I've got so many stories, but I cannot tell them because of like NDAs and just like I would love to keep my job. But one interesting story I have. And I'm not going to say any names. This is how I can justify telling the story.
Okay.
So there's a phrase that we all sort of know working in production, which is hurry up and wait, right? Mm-hmm. Because we are constantly told we need to be here. We need to have this ready at this time. Be here, be here, be here. You get there and nothing. It just stops. We're waiting for light. We're waiting for talent. We're waiting for them to finish what they're doing over there, whatever it is. And you're just standing around all day. I had a shoot. I was working on a music documentary with an A-list celebrity, right? And she was always late. Always late, right? That was just the norm. So we get there. I think the music video. So she was featured on another artist's music video, right? I think the music video call time was maybe like 8 a.m. Our call time was like 1 p.m. because our talent was supposed to be there at like 2 or something. It's like 9 p.m. She's not there. Wow. It was kind of cool because we're at this, big budget music video. So we're just watching it and we're shooting B-roll, but, we're literally just doing nothing. We're twiddling our thumbs. And, it's one of those times where you're sitting there wondering to yourself, what are we doing here? Why are we shooting this? This music video isn't that important to the story. Like, we're wasting our time, whatever. It then all becomes worth it because she calls the director on the project, my boss, and says to him, hey, I'm in my trailer and I'm about to get married. Do you want to come film this? She literally had flown her pastor out and got married in her trailer to her boyfriend. And my boss, of course, says yes. So the couple, camera and sound were the only people that witnessed this wedding. My boss was like the witness of the wedding and signed the paper.
Get out of here. That is crazy.
Got the whole thing on film. And that specific moment is one of the reasons why that project is going to sell for a lot of money, because we have the only footage of this person being married. I can't say who it is, but that's one of those moments where in documentary, you never really know.
Yeah.
You know, you can start the day thinking this is what we're going to get today, but life happens and you get these incredible moments, and it can like really elevate the project. So I guess being
Wow.
flexible is the lesson there.
That's amazing, man. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna come back to you if we have time. I'm gonna come back to you. I want to see if we can get Ralph and Ched in here. Who wants to go? Well, Patrick, you choose. Who's going next?
Let's get Professor Cheddar.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to tell you a story that I have. I can't call the name, but I'm coming to it from a point of view as a director, because as a director, and I like to do live shows. So this was a live show.
Wow. Okay.
So I was directing this live program, and let me tell you what it is. It's a year after Nelson Mandela came out of prison.
Wow.
So I was directing Nelson Mandela celebration. It was live, and we were broadcasting to the entire world.
Wow.
Now, as I said, as directors, you are like little gods because you control what your audience see. And so celebration was going on. Something happened, Kirk. Something happened which wasn't good. And one of my camera guys picked it up. And I was seeing it on one of my monitors because I had 7 cameras. And I was looking at one of them and I said, man, that's good footage. I need to keep it. But then it was a celebration. Celebration of him being released from prison. He's there with Winnie Mandela, and we were having all of this. But I had to choose between either showing what was taking place or continue with the celebration. And so I had to leave that piece out, keep it as footage so I could record it on a separate recorder and show the celebration, because if I did that and then cut back to the celebration, it would be over.
Yeah.
And so you at that point in live television, as a director, I have to decide what's more important in terms of telling your story, because the entire world was watching us.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
we were
powerful.
broadcasting live to BBC, and they were sending it all over the world. So as directors, you've got to decide what's happening. Putting it closer to church, media right now, the background that we have to do every week. It's a crazy situation in the control room.
Yeah.
Because you've got to make so much decisions at the same time. Okay, nope, this is not going to be there. Let's adjust this run sheet right now. Let's take this out, bring that one in, and you got to be communicating with your floor directors what to come in and what to take out.
Right.
So it's very critical as directors what you show your audience.
Yeah.
So that's my little story there, but I didn't want to get into the specifics of it.
No, but the story is from what I'm gathering from what you're saying, the story is king. I mean, the continuity of the story, making sure that you're presenting what is actually happening, and maybe not necessarily confusing the scenario and distracting from the primary purpose. That's powerful, and I think that's a great takeaway for some of our aspiring professionals, folks who want to get into the field, understanding that there is, you have to understand what your focal point is. Last but not least, Mr. Jean-Pierre.
Oh, hey, all right, man. There's so many. Working in the industry for a while, and every job is something new, crazy, something. But kind of like Patrick said, it's hard to divulge information that you're not allowed to speak on.
Right.
So, on these major projects. But I know for me personally, I love to learn new things, and every job is a new challenge. Yeah. And I've started off in digital media, working on YouTube things, to live sports like the Rams or UCLA. And so forth, and a lot of reality and different productions. And the last one that I worked on that was released is the Scooby-Doo movie, and that was my first animated feature. So that was a whole new ball game of, how does this work? How does animated work? And I know we were talking about how I was describing, the different roles and positions, and one unique thing that I learned working on animation is editing is now part of the writing and production. So
Wow.
a lot of times animated features take 4 or 5 years to make.
Wow.
And it's not necessarily the animation part, it's the story part. So what it is in animation, your writers and your director and your editors and your storyboard artists work hand in hand. So pretty much the writer will, write the script, and then you have a storyboard artist. So you used to like the drawing, and you kind of like flipping the pages like flip book style.
Right.
So they literally draw like the frames out. Us editors take that, edit that, paste it out, and then use temp voices, temp character voices, temp, music, just to pitch it right back to the director and producers to see, does this work?
Was it? Oh my word.
Or not. And if it does or does not, they'll rewrite, redraw, re-edit, rewrite, redraw, re-edit.
Re-edit, mercy.
It's a long cycle that goes over and over again. And being part of that was, it really, as an editor, it really makes you work on your chops of storytelling, because you have so much control now. Once you get these storyboards, there's no dialogue, no one's recorded anything. You control the pacing, the mood, the vibe, and everything that's happening, and you're constantly working with the writers and the storyboard artists, fluidly on your project. And that was something, I really enjoyed learning and doing on the Scooby-Doo movie that was released and stuff. And to answer Carmen's answer on editing, I know the boys said I use Avid, so yeah, Avid is my thing. But same thing for me, an editing system is a tool. Whatever you use is what you use. I started off in Premiere. I'm Final Cut certified. Well, probably not anymore since everything's old, new. And stuff. When I got into Hollywood, and I learned that major TV productions are pretty much all done at Avid, so that had to been the go-to, and I absolutely love it. One of the biggest advocates I have for it, which I guess Patrick can testify when we worked together, was the fact that we can share projects and bins, no problem, pretty easy. Usually in your edit suite, on a TV show, for example, you'll have average 3 editors and 3 assistant editors. And each editor and assistant editor works on one episode. The next one works on another episode, and next tier works on another episode.
Wow.
So there's a rotation as editors working on different episodes. But the beautiful thing of Avid, we can have one central server, which is like now it's called a Nexus or Unity or ISIS. They've gone through so many names. Now it's called a Nexus, where all 6, 7, 8 computers can
connect
to
in
the same media, same project, same everything without crashing, interfering. Whereas in, Premiere and whatnot, you can't, I know they have new media share stuff, but traditionally it's not built on that base of sharing media versus a whole department of various people. So that's what you'll see in major productions where Avid is pretty much the go-to software for collaboration and everything.
Wow,
Avid's Interplay has changed the game. They don't call it Interplay anymore. They call it like media production. The asset manager.
Yeah.
Oh,
asset
okay,
management.
Yeah.
Man.
And also the Carbon's question, platform used, Windows, Mac, Linux. Generally, I've noticed on most, you'll see either Windows or Mac. Most of my stuff have been on Mac, but I do know people who work on PCs. And I figure, Andy, are you guys on PCs?
Yeah, we use Windows here.
Yeah, and stuff. So you'll kind of see both. And the great thing about Avid, it works on both.
Avid works on both. All right. That's great. Folks, we are right at the end of our time. I want to give everybody be able to say a sentence to kind of plug your hustle, to plug your thing, to tell people where they can find you. And we will go clockwise, starting with Patrick and making our way around to Ralph.
So you guys can find me on Instagram. My handle's Pat Altima. The one thing I want to say really quickly, I'm working on a documentary right now about acting. So I kind of want to talk to actors at all different stages of their career and just paint a portrait of sort of what that is. And that's it. So if you know of anyone, reach out to me. Would love to talk to you guys.
It's just Patalteema.
Patalteema. Pat Altima.
So for those who are looking to get at Pat, that's his handle.
Get at Pat.
Get at Pat. Go ahead, Fernita.
So as I mentioned earlier, I've made the transition a bit from television to events, and so trying to put those together. So digital event production, or digital conferences. So I started a new business not too long ago. Everything is very brand new. But you can reach me at events@winstonmontrosegroup.com. It's a nod to my dad who...
Wrong one, sorry.
Yeah. It's a nod to my dad who always wanted me to have my own business. So I'm in events now.
Come on, folks. We got to support our own. We got to support our own. Events at winstonmontrosegroup.com. It's on the screen. Catch the replay, pause the video, write down the email address, write down Pat's handle, and get at them. All right. Brother Russell.
I guess that's me. It's against my personal constitution to use social media, so I have no handle. But if you would like to reach out to me, I think, do you have my email address, Kirk?
I don't think so. Not ready, but I can throw it up here real quick. Just tell me what it is.
Okay, it's you can reach me if you have any questions or need to contact me. It's andy@capturetheidea.com.
Okay, I think I typed that right, as quick as right as it can be in live here. CaptureTheIdea.com. All right, cool.
Thank you, Ralph.
All right, Professor Cheddar.
And it's the same here, dacheddar@oakwood.edu. That's all I'm using.
Okay.
dacheddar@oakwood.edu. So that's my contact for it.
Question: do a lot of people call you Professor Cheese? Because I saw you that, I saw that.
Yeah, well,
it's coming up a lot.
Yeah. Even when I was in high school, everybody calls me Cheese.
Cheese. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Jean-Pierre.
Great. What was the original thing? What are we talking about?
Plug your hustle. Where can people find you? What's your handle?
Honestly, I love to answer any questions in post-production or media. Like, I've had a chance to teach a few classes on editing and assistant editing and whatnot. So just hit me up on IG or Facebook, whatever. IG is R Jean-Pierre, which RJEANPIERRE. Down to answer anything pretty much in the world, because there's so much that happens that we didn't even get touched on and stuff. But one key thing I want to leave everybody with is making sure you build relationships in this field. One thing I did learn, we didn't talk about this, but one thing I didn't know moving into Hollywood was you got to know somebody. It is very much a network scenario. It doesn't matter how long your resume is, It's really networking and who you know and people. So build those relationships, talk to everybody, and keep hustling, pushing to get that gig. And honestly, that's how I know Patrick, where I edited a movie and an actor in the movie was good friends with Patrick. And I kind of took a liking to the actor. We did as well. They said, hey, meet my buddy Pat. And we met and hit it off right away and began working together, sharing each other work. So you'll find that in this industry, you're constantly sharing work with each other, sharing gigs, because you can't do it all by yourself. So I just want to encourage people to keep on pushing, keep striving, if this is what you want to do in this career.
Priceless. That's all we got time for today, folks. I know we tried to cram it all into that hour, but kind of went a little bit over. We thank you for sticking around with us. Next week, we're going to be talking about podcasts. Title is All I Hear Is Podcast This and Podcast That. And we've got Denise and Oliver Marcel from Trade Secrets. We've got Pierre Quinn from Leading While Green. We've got Kimon Hines from Ideas to Life. Jamie Calasar with his podcast, Raise Your Voice. And Robert Kennedy with his podcast, The RK3 Show. It's not something you're going to want to miss. Podcast is like a big, huge microphone to amplify your message. You're going to want to tune in next week, next Monday at 2 p.m. right here on the channel, How It All Works. Thank you so much for your time and attention. We will see you in the next one.